Good morning. Good morning. And thank you to our Facebook and YouTube audience for joining us this morning as we talk about mental health and the Black man and its impact in our community and across the world. My name is Charmaine Respis. I am the co founder and executive director of Antioch Christian Fellowship, but also a team member of Hope Ministry, where we try to bring information about mental health and provide education as well as tools and tips in helping young men, women, and adults on how to manage mental health and the crisis that we're seeing here in the world today. As I mentioned, my name is Charmaine Respis, but I want to welcome Mr. Kelvin Smith to our live stream this morning. He is a licensed therapist and founder of Extended Hands Counseling Services here in Louisville, Texas. And I wanted to introduce him, but also bring him on today to talk about mental health, mental illness, and its impact on our young Black men in the community. And so, good morning, Mr. Kelvin. Can I call you Kelvin?
Jet, please call me Kelvin. Please call
Well,
me.
welcome,
Good
welcome.
morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's a pleasure to have you here as we talk about this serious discussion. So, thank
My,
you.
my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you, Facebook and YouTube viewers, for joining us today. It is an honor that you took time out of your schedule, your busy schedule, to join us to hear about this subject that we've been talking about for so long, and now really getting a grapple on mental health and its impact and how we can really help our young men and women. And so, but today we're talking about mental health and its impact with Black men. But before we do, if you have any questions, if you have any comments that you would like to post, we ask that you please grant StreamYard permission in order to do so, and that we can see your comments and questions and raise those questions with Mr. Kelvin here. And so please don't forget to grant StreamYard permission. Again, thank you. So as we get started today, we know that on December 13th, 2022, the entire country was stunned to hear about the passing of Stephen, affectionately known as DJ Twitch, boss to suicide. And it was a shock to not only my core, but to many men and women, Black men and women, and just the community as a whole. We were stunned about the tragedy of such DJ Twitch. And it really raised the question for me, what is happening? What is happening to our Black men, and what is happening in our community that we're choosing to use suicide as an option to resolving internal issues? And I apologize if I'm not using the correct terms, but we're using suicide as a means to resolving our conflict, our challenges, our trials that we experience in life. And it was just I think just heartbreak, for the whole world to see that happen. Why? Because we didn't see any signs. We saw him as a free spirit, a happy person, always bringing joy to the world. Also, Ellen DeGeneres on the Ellen Show, to see so much joy come from within, and then all of a sudden, he takes his life. He takes his life. And we were left to wonder what happened. What happened? But I was also reading. It says, according to a national survey on drug use and health, Black males are more likely to suffer mental health issues, yet less than 40% receive mental health services. And that's why I wanted to bring you on today, Kelvin, is to talk about not only these statistics, but really what is going on in our community, so that we can feel better equipped and have the tools and tips to possibly help our young men that are struggling to just live life. And we know it's difficult, but struggling to live life. And so that's why I wanted to bring you on today. And so I have a few questions for you. And I
Oh
hope
no. I'll try to answer them as best I can.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the questions, it says, in the last several years, Kelvin, we have seen a drastic spike in mental illness and suicide among young Black men. Why do you think that is?
I think a lot of it has to do with we as black men are stigmatized so much.
Hmm.
We're stigmatized so much, um, whether it's by the world, by our families.
Hmm.
Um, we're reluctant. We're very reluctant to go and seek any kind of help.
Hmm.
So a lot of times it just comes down to we feel hopeless. We feel hopeless, and maybe because we don't have avenues, that we haven't been given avenues to go and seek help, the
Hmm.
proper help that we need. When this hopelessness sets in, um, we think the only way out is for me not to be here anymore.
Okay. Okay. What do you think has changed from this generation, the millennials and the Gen Z, from the previous generations, my generation, Generation X, and the baby boomers? And what do you think has changed? Because it seems as though life is easier for them. We've made it easier for our young Black men to succeed. And when we compare the last two generations to the previous generations, our assumption that we had a harder life, as young, as Black men and women, we had much harder life. So what do you think is happening? Are we failing in giving them the proper tools to succeed, or what is going on that they feel as though there's no hope?
Listen, this has kind of been passed down. I
Yeah.
mean, from my parents who did the best that they could,
Hmm.
they could with me above them. Their parents tried to do, set them up. You're right. We have provided. I'm kind of I'm in the same generation with you. Provided
Yeah.
so much for our kids compared to even maybe to what we did or
Mhm.
what we got. But you know what? The one thing that we have to continue to provide them is education and awareness that, hey, guess what? Things are going to happen, right? But it's okay. Let me say that out loud.
Yeah.
It's okay to understand that you're not going to be perfect, that you're going to run into some obstacles. But guess what? Fortunately for me, I was brought up in a two-parent household.
Yeah.
Maybe some people weren't brought up in a two-parent household. Maybe they brought up with Big Mama and Pawpaw or whatever that looked like for
Yeah.
you. But maybe you didn't have the resources back then. But we're blessed. Most of us are truly blessed now to where our kids have resources. We
Mhm.
have insurance.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm laughing because we have insurance. I don't recall having insurance growing up, Charmaine. I don't recall having insurance.
Me
When
either.
when I got my first real job, man, the first thing I did was went to the doctor, went to the dentist, and I've made sure my kids did the same thing. But
Yeah.
listen, we have to make sure that our kids know that guess what? Listen, you're not going through anything that somebody before you have not already been through,
Yeah.
which means you can overcome this. And this sense of hopelessness that they tend to fall into sometimes is it's I'm not going to say it's not necessary because it's their emotion, but we as parents, their friends, whomever it is, somebody have to be there to let them know that hey, you're not in this by yourself.
Mhm.
Me too. Me
Yes.
too. I'm going to be transparent here. I've had clients that come in and talk to me and tell me about because on one of my intake forms is have you ever considered suicide? And
Mm.
some will say, "Yes, I have." And when I ask them about it or whatever, and they're shocked.
Mhm.
And some people on this video right now might be shocked. Me too.
Yeah.
Me
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah.
If we're honest with each other, me too. I have maybe it was a what I refer to as a passive ideation,
Yeah.
but me too. I've considered it too. So our kids need to
Yeah.
know that they're not in this by themselves.
Okay. And that's, I think it's really interesting to know because not to bring the spiritual aspect in it, but I have to being a pastor's wife, but I think the enemy infiltrates our thoughts, our mind, to make us feel as though we're hopeless and that the current situation that we're in is hopeless and there's no end. And I've had to learn over time that throughout the trials that I've experienced, that God has given me the steadfastness to persevere and to overcome. And looking back, yes, it was extremely difficult. And yes, I had considered suicide and had attempted suicide on different occasions. But thankfully, and thank God, I did not succeed because I'm now here to share my story. But I really want to encourage our young Black men that yes, life is difficult. No, it is not easy. But how do we overcome, that hopelessness, that sense of hopelessness that we think that suicide is an option? And so,
Charmaine, can I say something real quick?
absolutely.
Thank you for being transparent that you
Mhm.
too have had those thoughts,
Yeah,
because guess what? That's in our community. We're so secretive.
yeah,
We're so secretive because listen, let me be real clear. I'm going to say this and I'll be quiet.
yeah,
Um, in our community, and I know, and this is not to offend anyone, but I knew when I was younger, if you heard of someone committing suicide, you automatically assume they were what color? They wasn't black.
yeah,
They weren't black.
exactly. Yes.
And even with the young man that committed suicide back in December, Twitch, uh, on the surface, we thought, man, this guy got it going on. He's
Yeah,
Ellen loves him. He's this. He's doing that. So we have to understand. Me too. You're not the only one. And if we can get people to understand, you're not the only one that's having these thoughts or have maybe had an attempt. Then guess what? I think that improves the chances for us to have a conversation.
absolutely. And I think it also helps us, those who um, live outside the bubble, let's say, of celebrities, when we think they have the wealth, they have the material possessions, they have the status, they have the title, all those things that it seems young people gravitate to. He had all of these things, and yet it was not enough to satisfy or to give him a spirit of peace and joy from within. And I think
Absolutely.
that's key because there are many that have nothing and yet have a spirit of peace and joy within and do not contemplate suicide as an option. So I think that's something that speaks volumes to our young people to know that it doesn't matter the status. So whether you have followers of thousands or millions, or you have none, it's about who you are in Christ. I think is really key in knowing who you are in your God given purpose. But I want to continue to ask you, what are some causes, so what do you think are some of the causes to men choosing suicide as an option? And then the second question, part of that question, is why don't men seek help?
I think um, I think first of all, there's a whole lot of risk factors that go into men choosing to,
Yeah,
you know, why they get to this point, whether it's high unemployment, I'm
yeah,
underemployed, I'm dealing with stress, I have unresolved anger, I have depression, trauma, grief, um,
mm,
my self-medication, my self-doubt, my self-doubt. I was always told, not me personally, but
mm.
some people have always been told, you're never going to amount to anything.
Wow,
You're going to be just like your daddy.
wow,
Oh, right. So guess what? When things happen to me and things that aren't happening for me in the way that I want them to, what do I do?
yeah,
Well, shoot, I may as well not be here.
yeah,
I add no value.
yeah,
And then two, we as men, we're so impulsive. We're so impulsive. We're less likely to talk about our emotional problem. We're less likely to go and seek some help or to talk to
yeah,
someone, even though I
yeah,
may have my ace, my
yeah,
frat brother, my ace, whomever it is. I don't usually go and talk to this person about what's going on with me,
yeah,
right? So um, we got to keep educating the community.
yeah,
For those of us that are in this line of work, it's imperative that we continue to educate each other. These risk factors are going to be in place,
yeah,
but some things we got to be able to have a conversation about. We got to
mhm,
be able to have a conversation, not a surface conversation. Yo, bro, you good? Yo,
yeah,
man, you good? Yeah, man, I'm good, man, I'm good. No, are you really good?
yeah,
Are you good?
yeah,
So if I ask you how you doing, if I ask my boy, I said, man, how you doing? He said, I'm fine.
yeah,
No, no. Are you really fine? Because I need to hear you're great. I
yeah,
need to hear that everything is good with you. Everything is great with you.
yeah,
Um, a lot, like I said, a lot of risk factors go into that, and we could go on naming
Yeah.
because your risk factor may be different from my risk factor, but we can go on um,
No, that's
naming the.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
No, I think that's excellent, and I think you know I'm not a male, so I can't really speak from a male's perspective, but understanding the challenges that men have and having to man up, as you mentioned, having to man up and having to be this tough person. And so, therefore, you see this tough exterior, but on the inside, that interior, that person on the inside is really dying slowly because they really want to open up and share, but they have to maintain this tough exterior. And I think one of the keys is to really begin to open up and talk about the struggles that you're experiencing and that it's okay. I can remember years ago, my challenge was opening up and sharing as a pastor's wife my struggles, my internal struggles. And eventually I just said, you know what? I don't care what people think. I don't care because I'm tired of struggling and hurting on the inside. You see one facade of Charmaine, but internally, Charmaine is dying. And
Yeah,
so it finally took a breaking point for me to say, I need help. I need help. And I think we have to end the stigma of, keeping things quiet, particularly in our culture, and sweeping things underneath the carpet where we eventually just suppress these issues, and then over time eventually we just explode. So
exactly. Let me say, you're so right. We are so good at sweeping things under the rug, uh, and then the rug has a big lump in it, and
yeah.
then we walk around the rug. We don't even address the lump in the rug, and
Yeah.
but eventually things are going to start flying from under the rug.
Wow. Wow.
Maybe they're seeping out. Maybe there's an explosion and everything comes out at once.
Yeah.
But eventually, if we keep sweeping stuff under the rug long enough, things are going to come out. Maybe slowly or all at once, but we can't continue to just, especially in our communities, guys, we cannot continue to just sweep things under the rug.
Okay, thank you, thank you. And for our Facebook and YouTube viewers, audience, if you have any questions or comments, please post them at this time so we can get those addressed. But as we continue the discussion, I've often heard there's a difference between suicidal thoughts and suicide ideation. Can you explain the differences and what can we do to recognize when someone needs professional help?
Okay, so suicidal ideation and suicidal thoughts are pretty much just the same thing.
Okay. Okay.
They're basically the same thing. The difference is, as I alluded to in the beginning here, when we get to having a passive thought of, what, maybe I shouldn't be here anymore.
Hmm.
That's passive. When I have a thought of suicide or harming to myself in some kind of way, and I think maybe I shouldn't be here anymore.
Hmm.
Active is when I'm having these thoughts and now they have turned into, I'm making a plan,
Okay.
right? April Fool's Day is my day. I'm not going to be here anymore. I've made a plan. I have a gun. I have
Yeah.
a means of carrying it out. So there's a active, there's a passive when I'm just a
Yeah.
passing thought, you
Okay.
know, then there's the active when I'm making a plan and I have a plan, I have a date, I have a means to
Yeah.
harm myself. Those are the two things that I would think about. But ideation and thoughts, they're pretty much the same thing. And I'm
Okay.
sorry, what was the second part of your question?
What can we do to recognize when someone needs professional help? And I think let me add this, not only with DJ Twitch, but with others. We find ourselves lamenting and regretting that we didn't see the signs.
Hmm.
And oftentimes we may not see the signs, but what do we do when how do we recognize when someone needs professional help? Are there specific signs that we should look for, comments that we should listen for or listen to? What are those signs that we should, to be feel better equipped on how to help someone?
Uh, Charmaine, I mean, excellent question, but to be honest with you, I don't know if there is a definitive answer
Okay.
besides what I alluded to earlier about risk factors, right?
Okay.
So, If it's somebody, maybe some people that were in Twitch's inner circle,
Yeah.
knew,
Yeah.
that things weren't going. I mean, I've read all
Mm.
kinds of things. There were financial issues, different things or whatever. But uh, these risk factors, whether it's the depression, whether it's life changes, maybe there's some kind of mental disorders going on, maybe there's substance abuse disorders going on, maybe I'm dealing with some kind of chronic pain, maybe there's a history of suicide in the family,
Mm.
there's some family issues going on, maybe I dealt with some abuse or some sexual abuse in my past.
Yeah.
uh, there's a whole lot of risk factors that may go into those things, but understand this: suicide does not discriminate.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how old you are
Yeah.
or what ethnicity you are. It does not discriminate. So,
Yeah.
real quick, I had a 14-year-old. I had a lady probably a few years ago come to my office. She was dealing with her 14-year-old daughter committing suicide. 14 years old. Uh, they had no idea she was a outgoing, fun loving, loved to dance. Although she was 14, she was into breakdancing. She was into
Okay.
breakdancing. Her mom showed me videos of her daughter breakdancing as she was crying.
Wow.
Um, but the note that their daughter left said, "I'm never going to measure up to my big brother and my big sister because they were better athletes and they were better students. So
Wow.
I will never measure up."
Mm.
But they saw no signs,
Wow.
saw no signs
Mm.
until she decided to take her life simply because she said, "I will never measure up." And yes, yes, she was black.
Wow.
She was black. They
Wow.
lived in a affluent neighborhood, 7,000 square foot house. Kids had everything they wanted. Daughter had her own car, drove a Lexus.
Wow. Yeah.
14 years old, she already got her own car. I mean,
Mm.
she didn't have it yet, but it was set aside for her. Had everything good going for her. But she was afraid she was never going to measure up to her brother and sister who had gotten scholarships to college as athletes. Her brother as an athlete and her sister as an academic scholarship. So when it comes to recognizing the signs, guys, we don't always see the signs, but we have to look for
Yes.
risk factors that may be prevalent, and we're overlooking them. We think everything is good. Everything is not always good.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Where do we start? Well, let me back up. I have a follow-up question in regards to suicide. Is it realistic to say that a lot of people will have thoughts of suicide? I know that's a tough question. That's a tough
It it,
question.
it, it is, and I'm going to give you a Kelvinism,
Okay.
and the answer to that from a Kelvinism standpoint is yes.
Okay.
Yes, if they'll be honest, if they'll be truly honest,
Okay.
like I said on my form, if I've scrolled through all my intake forms over the years that I've been a counselor, probably 70% of them says yes, I've had suicidal ideation. Now,
Wow.
when they say that they have attempted it, the number goes down.
Okay.
But for most people, if we're honest, I mean, have had at some point in time in their life,
Yeah.
they had it.
Wow.
They had it. I remember wrecking my dad's truck when I was 16, about 15, 16 years old. And I'm like, oh my God, my dad loved this truck. And man, maybe I shouldn't be here. And my dad could care less about the truck. He was like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. Yeah.
That made a world of difference for me. But therefore, that split second, I was like, man,
Wow.
maybe I should have got killed in that truck or whatever, so I didn't have to deal with that. But
Wow.
to answer your question, yes, I do believe, if we're being honest, if our viewers are being honest, you too, like me too, like
Yeah.
you too,
Yeah.
have experienced suicidal ideation.
Wow. Wow. No, thank you. Thank you for that. Um, where do we start? Especially in our community, where do we start with ending the negative stigma of mental health and mental illness in our community? As I mentioned, as I stated earlier, I think a lot of us hide the fact that we may struggle with mental illness because of the stigma. Um, we not jokingly say, but we often say that people will share that they have high blood pressure or diabetes or some other form of health ailment, or illness. But when it comes to mental illness, we don't want to talk about it,
Hmm.
because we know the response, the reaction would be, "What's wrong with you?" And growing up in my generation, the comments were, "You're crazy," "What's wrong with you?" We don't hear those terms anymore, probably. Um,
Not as much.
not as much, not as much. We're politically correct now. We want
Right,
to make
right.
sure we use we're woke and we want to use the correct terms, so not as to not offend anyone. But those were some of the comments. And so, well, how do we in our community begin to end the negative stigma of mental illness?
Um, right off the bat, we got to do what we're doing here today, and that is raising awareness. We have
Okay.
to raise awareness. We got to get people educated and educate people, and then we got to work on this destigmatization of our mental health. Listen, as we talked about some of the negative stigmas, in our communities, we struggle with even going to the doctor for when something is physically wrong with us. Although in our generation, especially, I think it's gotten better about it. But I know my dad, he's deceased now, but he was reluctant for years to go to the doctor. I think a lot of times because first of all, I can't miss work. I'm not going to get paid. I'm going to work through it. And then too, there was just this really a negative. There was the distrust of the medical establishment because let's be honest, we haven't always been treated the best when it comes to being in going to the doctor.
Yeah.
Uh, then too, mental health was always viewed as a weakness. Charmaine, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, if I had ever walked in and told my parents I need to go talk to a counselor,
Yeah.
how would that have been received in your household? It
Not
wouldn't have.
well.
It wouldn't. More likely, it wouldn't have. You need to go talk to Uncle so and so. You need to go talk to Bishop so and so. But no, nothing against them, but maybe they weren't equipped to deal with what I was dealing with, right? And then too, I know you're pastor's wife, and please understand what I'm about to say is, but a lot of times we use prayer and our faith as a salve. And
Yeah.
you grew up in an environment where Vic salve solved everything, right?
Yeah.
Right. And listen, please don't get me wrong.
No, no.
I'm all in favor of prayer, fasting, faith,
Yeah.
but sometimes I need additional help. I
Yes.
need additional help. So I need to go and seek those things out.
Yeah.
Um, listen,
No,
not to
I completely agree. I completely agree with you. And so I'm not offended at all. And I think as a church, that we need to do more about talking about mental health and mental illness. And that's why Antioch started the ministry, Hope Ministry, with this leader, Shakita Owens. She's a licensed therapist. And so she leads the ministry. But that was one of our goals, is to bring awareness to the community, to the church, that it's absolutely okay, that you may struggle with mental health issues and mental illness. And we want to, provide the education and not be afraid. Do we have it all together? No, but we're learning, and we have experts, a part of the ministry, to talk about it and to bring awareness so that people feel okay that, hey, yes, you can couple that with prayer, but also get professional help, someone who is neutral and someone who can provide you tools on how to manage your mental illness, or give you some tips on what are some ways that you can cope, so that you don't feel like, what you're experiencing is overwhelming to such a degree that you look to suicide as your only option. So,
absolutely, absolutely. So,
mhm,
so listen. I just think that I talked about awareness, but listen, we got to continue to tell stories of our successes for people that have gone to counseling, and whether they have mental health, um, is mental health or mental illness. There's a difference between the two of those, but whether I have what it is. But listen, there's a positive experiences. By all means, stay
Yeah.
involved in your church. And
Yes.
fortunately, even in some of our African American churches now, we have counseling ministries inside the church. And be honest, some people are hesitant to
Yeah.
use the counseling ministries inside the church because they feel like their business is going to get out, right?
Yes.
So I get that,
Wow.
but so there again, we're worried about, you know, I shouldn't say the wrong thing. You don't want your business getting out, but at
Yeah.
the same time, whatever it
I
takes for
want
you to
help.
get better. Yeah, I need help. I
I need
need help.
help.
I need help. So listen, I
Yeah.
think if we can bring awareness to the mental health from a young age, we can start to kind of break some of these stigmas that are happening and kind of help shape this generation that we have now that I think is doing much better
Yeah.
overall at seeking out. I have a lot of young people who come see me. I have
Wow.
probably a lot of teenagers because our parents and maybe kids that are younger than me are either walking in through the door saying I need help, or parents are bringing their younger kids in 14, 15, 16 years old, just saying, hey, Pookie needs to talk to you, so bring him in and, talk to him, and working on build rapport. And let me say this, and I'll be quiet.
Yeah.
The main reason why I became a counselor, because I worked in IT for many, many years, but the main reason why I became a counselor is I want people who look like me to
Mhm.
have somebody to come and talk to. So I don't care who you go and talk to. If you need to find somebody who look like you, there are those of us out here so you can build a rapport with someone, but find somebody to talk to. Okay.
No, and the comment, Shakitha Owens, who's here on the call or on Facebook, she said many parents still have that mindset and think that therapy does not help. How do you fight that? When parents have that mindset, they see something is wrong with their children, but yet they don't, that mindset of providing services or resources for their children to get the help. How do you overcome that?
Me personally, I go back to the kids.
Okay.
I go back to the kids. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I and this is not me bragging on
Yeah.
me. I'm bragging on
Yeah.
God that brings young people through my door. Um, I could probably pull up um, emails that I've gotten from parents saying, "Hey, thank you for helping
Wow.
my son, for helping my daughter. He looks forward, but when he first started coming to you, he dreaded coming, like, oh, I got to go to counseling, and now it's like, so when do I see Mr. Kelvin again? So
That's good.
when so listen, not going to be a fit for everybody. And it could be the counselor that you're seeing. It may be, just getting your bill and rapport with your child.
Yeah.
But I usually go by what the kids are saying more
Okay.
so than, I know the parents are paying for it or their insurance are paying for it. I get that. But I go by what the kids are saying.
That's good. That's good because that's who you're counseling. That's who you're
E- e-
counseling.
exactly.
And if the parents are seeing results from the counseling, then they continue to make sure that they receive those resources, those services, those
Yeah.
services.
Yeah.
So
So let me say this real quick.
yeah.
Sometimes the parents are looking for a certain result,
Mhm.
right? And maybe you're not going to get that result right away.
Okay.
It takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time. And this is not about I'm trying to milk money off of nobody,
Yeah.
but excuse me, it takes time. So, like I tell parents when they come in, especially when you bring your teenager in, I let them know, hey, it's going to take me a couple of sessions to build some rapport
Yeah.
with your son or your daughter. I gotta talk trash to them. I gotta let them know I'm gonna take them to the basketball court. I'm gonna take them outside and race them or whatever it looks
Yeah.
like. And they like, how old are you? I'm like, don't worry
Yeah.
about how old I am. We going outside. And once I get them
Good.
laughing, Charmaine,
Yes.
I'm reeling them in.
That's good.
I'm reeling them in. But
That's
it
good.
it takes time. You just don't walk them in the door and right away jump in and thinks that you're going to start fixing their problems right away.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And we have a guest that'll be joining us later after we kind of conclude with your session that talks about that specific subject or building that rapport with men. And so for our men, um, what do we, I know we mentioned about signs or warnings, and sometimes there are none, but what are some common trends that you're seeing occurring with our men that you counsel? What are some common trends that you're seeing? some issues, I guess, challenges that you're seeing these men are coming in through your doors for seeking counseling?
Uh, a lot of them come through my door seeking help with depression.
Okay. Mm,
Depression. They're depressed about something that has happened or has not happened in
mhm,
their lives, right? So whether it is um, maybe the relationship that they're in, maybe uh, as I mentioned earlier, maybe they're underemployed, maybe they're might not making the money that they used to make.
mhm,
I don't have a job. I've been unemployed. I can't find a job. I have all this education, but I can't find a
yeah,
job. Uh, they've gone through divorce. They
yeah,
dealing with divorce. They're about to go through divorce.
okay,
So they dealing with those kind of things. And I cannot tell you how many times, Charmaine, I've had uh, wives and girlfriends who dragged dragged their significant others to counseling. They like, oh no, you going, and so even then, just like the teenagers who come in, the men come in, they're reluctant to talk to me at first or whatever, but the same thing with them. I have to build a rapport with them, and
okay,
right away I let them know. And no offense to nobody on the call, but if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, we're gonna butt heads right away. And whether you are or not a Cowboy fan,
mm,
that's my icebreaker. That's
yeah,
my
okay,
icebreaker.
okay,
So I have to build a rapport with them because men are guarded.
yeah,
We're guarded. I'm not talking to another man. I'm not telling another man my issues. I'm not telling another man that, I'm struggling. And no,
yeah,
no, because listen, let's be clear. As men, we're taught not to show weakness. If
yeah,
I'm going to come in here and talk to another man who I don't know about my weakness, I can't do that.
yeah,
But as soon as I can start to get them to start letting their guards down, and
yeah,
they can be real and raw with me. I had a young man in here yesterday, about 25 years old, that cried through the
wow,
whole session. And he's like,
wow,
he said, I can't believe I'm sitting here crying. And
wow,
I'm like, I
mm,
told him, you're not the first man to come in here to start crying. So
wow. That's
so
good
don't
though.
don't feel bad. So
Man,
they come with a multitude of issues.
man, okay. I have a comment that says it seems that the stereotypes that come with managing mental health with clinical support and medication use can be a struggle too. Can you address that?
The same stereotypes that come with managing mental health and clinical. Oh, no doubt, no doubt. But I think that all goes back to, um, so like I was saying earlier, I think there's a difference between my mental health, right? So when I'm talking to people about their mental health, I go to them with my Kelvinisms again.
Yeah,
Mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, I
yeah,
want to be healthy in all four of these areas of my life. I call
yeah,
them my Kelvinisms, but all four of those areas, I want to be healthy daily. I
yeah,
may need to work on my physical being today. I should work on my spiritual being every day.
yeah,
But I need to work. So, but then now when I start talking about a mental illness, if I'm dealing with, I have bipolar issues, I have um, uh, really severe depression issues or whatever, that really is beyond just counseling. I may need to go see someone else. And Charmaine, I may need to take some medication.
yeah,
Oh my. Oh my. No, I'm not taking no pills. I'm not taking no medication. So we struggle with finding a balance between those two because of, we have to understand my mental health is about, how I react to in social environments and all these kind when my mental illness is about something that's diagnosable,
yeah,
right? Diagnosable. So if I'm diagnosed with heartburn, then guess what? I may have to take something for that. But if I'm diagnosed with being bipolar, I'm like, oh no, I ain't taking
yeah.
nothing for that. I got a headache, but I'll take two Advil for that. But if I if I have a mental illness, then I'm so yeah, they struggle with each other.
Okay, okay. And I have one last question that we have a gentleman that's going to be joining us very shortly, but to talk about one of the things that they're doing here in across the world, the nation. But in our few minutes left, what are some simple tools that you can share with men that may be struggling that would never seek help? What are some simple tools, a couple of tools that you can give to us?
I kind of go back to what I said earlier about me too.
Okay.
Me too. So I want to encourage men to understand that, hey, me too, you're not alone in your struggle. Find someone to talk to, somebody that you trust, accountability partner. Walk through somebody's door and say, "Hey, I need help." Raise my hand. Say, "I need help." If your wife has to, women on the call, if you have to drag him into some office or whatever, drag him in. But I have to understand that, hey, I need help and I'm not alone in that. So you'll find that there's a lot of me too's out there if I just start a conversation with someone.
Me too.
Me
Okay.
too.
Well, Kelvin, thank you so very much for just one taking time out of your busy schedule. I know Saturdays is a busy day for you with counseling, so I, on behalf of Hope Ministry, Shakita Owens, and the team, we just thank you so very much for joining us and sharing with us about mental health. And I hope we keep the discussion going, and that
We
this
have
is
to.
not the last time we will share. And so I definitely appreciate you and sharing your expertise. Audience, please stay on. We have a guest that will be joining us shortly here and to talk about the Confess project. So, Kelvin, you want to stay on for a few moments, or if you
Yeah, yeah.
have
If you
to
don't
go?
mind, I'm just gonna mute and listen in. Okay.
Okay, awesome, awesome. I'm going to add Mr. Ozell Graham. Let's see here. Okay, okay. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I believe good morning. I have Ozell Graham, who is part of our Confess project. And so I know you are on mute, but I just want to share a little bit about Ozell Graham, but also about the Confess Project. What we have here, the Confess Project of America is a national organization supporting local chapters that train barbers. I'm going to put you on mute for a quick second. That train barbers and stylists to become mental health advocates with the mission to build awareness and break stigmas around mental health within the Black community. And so, audience, I invited the Confess Project of America because this is something that is completely new that I've never heard of, that men are doing across the nation. And that is having discussions about mental health and mental illness at the barbershop. Where do men talk at the barbershop? Where do they divulge their information and their struggles? Is at the barbershop. And I have Ozell Graham, who is a barber here in the local community in Dallas and I believe Plano, where he has two barbershops that talk to men about this very subject. And so, Ozell, I'm going to have you kind of share a little bit. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
So I just wanted to get some information about the Confess Project. What are you all doing? What is so great about this particular project that you're doing across the nation that's training barbers and impacting millions of men here in our nation about mental health?
So, one of the things that the Confess Project of America does is it recruits barbers to become advocates for mental health.
Mhm,
We have, we're over 45 different cities, 47 different cities across the United States, and we've trained over 2,500 barbers.
mhm.
And one of the things that we want to focus on is getting them trained to where they can look for different things in their customer when their customers come in. How to listen to certain things that their customers may be saying that may be triggering some type of mental illness or something like that. And we what we do then is just give them the necessary information that they need to help them to get them the help that they need.
Okay, excellent. I think this is it's a not won't even say phenomenon, but this is really important and key that as men come to the barbershop every week or every other week to get their haircut, that they're having these conversations and being open and honest about what's really going on in their lives, and to be able to share that with their barbers. They build these relationships with these barbers, and to come and to open their heart where they may not go to a counselor, as Kelvin mentioned. They may not come to a counselor, but they're going to go to the barber. They're going to go to
Definitely.
the barber, and they're going to get their hair cut, whether it's getting, if you have locks, or whether you have dreads, or you just getting a nice fade. They're going to the barber to get their hair done. And so I think that's really a very creative way to being advocates and talking about mental health, whereas men don't normally talk. And this place, being at the barbershop and having an hour to do so, I think is just awesome. I think it's awesome. So, how has it impacted the men that you have seen at your barbershop?
Well, it really helps them out a lot because when you come into the barbershop, you get all walks of life who come
Yeah.
through these doors.
Hmm.
People who are going through problems, who have went through problems, and a lot of times, if somebody's going through something, the barbershop becomes a round table to help that person get through a situation. Because
Okay.
like I said, we have all types of professions that come through: doctors, lawyers, you know, judges, just everybody. From the neighborhood guy who does what he do,
Yeah.
but everybody's going through something. So the barbershop becomes that cornerstone of the community, the neighborhood place where people can come in and just talk about their problems and don't have to worry about nobody laughing. Yeah, you may get some laughs and giggles, but those laughs and giggles just help you get to where you're trying to go to solve, whatever problems you may be going through. So, being a part of the Confess Project of America has really helped me out a lot. And because they train the barbers here at my shop, and it helps us. Guy come in, he's losing weight or he's gaining weight, or his appearance may be falling short. So you start asking those questions. Hey man, is everything all right? What's going on with you? And then if that person is already comfortable with you because they're sitting in your chair, you're already in their personal space.
Yeah.
So being in their personal space, they have some type of trust for you.
Yeah.
That the average stranger off the street coming to the barbershop, and you're within that person's personal space. So they're looking for more than just a haircut. And that's what the Confess Project of America does. That's well, like I said, training the barbers to become advocates to do more than just cut hair, to help our community get back on their feet.
Awesome, awesome. What has been the impact in this approach and being a mental health advocates in helping our young men? Have you seen a significant increase in men opening up and sharing and feeling hopeful about life after they leave the barbershop, after they leave your chair?
Definitely, because what you let them know is you're not alone at this here. You're not by yourself. I'm going through the same thing. This person here, he went through something, and he's going through something. So what it does is give you that comfort space, and
Okay.
and yes, it really helps them, and it makes them feel comfortable, and really start thinking, say, what, it's not just me.
Yeah.
Let me go out and seek this help. And they come back and say, hey man, I really appreciate you just taking that extra time to help me get through my situation.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And so you mentioned, well, the Confess Project is not only barbers, but you're beginning to train beauticians or stylists, salon stylists. I don't know the new term that we use today, but beauticians, stylists, females as well, across the nation in being mental health advocates. How is that going?
Well, that initiative is going good. Like I said, we're recruiting, and a lot
Okay.
of everybody's not meant for it. But you have to have that person who really cares about people to be a part of it. And with the Confess Project of America being now based in Atlanta, Georgia, that's the mecca of hair.
Yes.
So for us to go out there and we're able to touch a lot of different people. We are just in Greenville, South Carolina this past weekend at the OG Barber Conference, and we had a chance to sit down with a lot of barbers and stylists and talk to them about what we had going on.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Training. I know not everyone, as you mentioned, is really about caring for people in their mental state. Training. If someone, a barber or a stylist, is interested in becoming a mental health advocate, what training process? What is your training process like?
So with the Confess Project of America, the training process, we're looking for someone who has that listening ear. There's four pillars that we like to look for in that person, and the first one is active listening.
Okay.
A person that's just listening, that's going to listen to that person, not listen to solve the problem, but just be that good listener to them. Validation, give them that validation. Let them know, hey man, you're doing a good job. Keep up the great work that you're doing.
Yeah.
The third thing is stigma reduction, and that is making them think, what, you're not the only one. We're all in the same game. We're all in this together. And the fourth
Yeah.
thing is just communication. And once we get those things out the way, what we want to do is then get them to the necessary help that they need. Having to go talk to their pastor or a local counselor.
Okay. Do you partner with, as you mentioned, talking to your local pastor or counselor? Do you partner with counselors in the area? Because I know you're mental health advocates. So are you referring these men that you notice need some professional help to local therapists in the community?
Yes, the Confess Project of America has counselors that they work hand in hand with, and what we do is we just give them the website, give them the number, and have them to reach out to those individuals.
Okay. And what about churches? I know Kelvin and I mentioned earlier about the church trying to bring more awareness to mental illness. Are you partnering with churches as well that may kind of assist in this process?
Well,
This,
we're all in the same game. We're here to help each other. So at the end of the day, somebody might feel comfortable talking to their pastor, and then that pastor will take them to that next step. But yes, we're all in this together. So we're working with everybody who has a heart for mental health.
Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I want to again thank you for your time. And Kelvin, I know you're on mute, but how can we contact you, Ozell Graham? I know you are a barber here in the local community or here in the Dallas Metroplex. How can we get in contact with you?
Well, you can reach me at 972-616-3233. That's 972-616-FADE.
Fade. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And so you have, is it two barbershops here in the DFW area?
Yes, ma'am. We actually have three locations called the Fade Shop. 2008 Hoodie Award winner, 2009 Best Barbershop in the Nation with Ford. We've done reality TV shows, but we're that active barbershop in the community. We like to give back because the only way we can move forward is if we take off some of that load and give back, lighten our load to move ahead. And yes,
Amen.
so that's definitely what we're doing. We also just launched a hair and skincare brand back in 2017 called At Ease Hair and Skincare, and that stems from my military background. At ease means to relax.
Amen. 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 I want to be sure we get your information. You said you have three locations, and that is in the DFW Metroplex, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And can
Mhm.
you and I'm trying to type this information. So where are you located? You said DFW, but what area so we can kind of find
So,
you?
so we're in the North Dallas area. So that's our headquarters is at 18900 Dallas Parkway, Suite 107. That's in the Addison, Carrollton, far North Dallas area, Plano. And
Okay.
then our central Plano location is 3033 West Parker Road, Suite 210.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have our McKinney location, but we're doing some remodeling out there right now.
Can you give me the address to the second one again? You said 3300.
3033 West Parker Road, Suite 210.
Okay. And that's you said Plano?
Yes, ma'am. Plano, Texas.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And then Kelvin, how can we get in contact with you? Think you're on. Let's see. Let me unmute you. Okay. So I think you have to unmute Kelvin. So
Okay,
Kelvin
okay, there
Smith.
we go.
Okay, there we go.
You can get in touch with me at 972-626-3807, or you can go to extendedhandscounseling.com.
Extendedhandscounseling.com.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, guys, I know you're extremely busy. It's Saturday. Definitely you, Ozell Graham. This it's the money making day, as they would say.
Hey, every day is a great day at the Fade Shop.
Amen. And it's called the Fade Shop. Okay. So, yes. So, I want to thank you so very much for joining Hope Ministry and just taking time out of your schedule to just share with us what you're doing in the community to impact our men, our Black men, in hopes, that they will get the help that is needed because we need you all around. And so, thank you so very much, Ozell and Kelvin, for joining Hope Ministry. And we'll definitely continue this discussion. I know it's definitely needed, and we appreciate you all. We appreciate you so much.
All
Um,
right.
Facebook and YouTube audience, thank y'all so very much for joining us today, this Saturday. And we hope and pray that you receive a wealth of information to help you and to help our young Black men make a difference. And so, again, thank you so very much. Y'all have an amazing day. Take care.
All
All
right.
right. Thank
Thank
you.
you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.